OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's going on?
What's going on? How are we feeling today?
Well, let me ask you this. Would you be a booing participant last night, Hazy B? Because I found it a little bit disgusting.
Oh, you were disgusted by that. You were disgusted by fans having a reaction.
Dude,
not a good start for us if we're going to have a fun 3 hours
disagreement
here.
already.
I know what you're going to say. Oh, you watch the New York Yankees. If they don't play well, they get booed. Like, you got a first-place team. They've been on a heater. Is it really necessary to boo? Like, why don't you do yourself a favor and take a little road trip with 5 of your buddies and go spend 4 or 5 days down in upstate New York there and watch the Sabres and see what they do on a nightly, and maybe you'll be a little bit more appreciative.
Here's where I have a serious issue with that. You and I, the three of us, we've been doing this show for a long time. How many times have we come in here and said, that building is asleep, it's pathetic, no one has a reaction?
Was one of those nights.
But at least they booed. At least someone came alive. So you can't complain that the fans aren't in it, the building, the real fans aren't in there. And then people actually give you a reaction because they've lost 3 in a row in reg and say, well, that's stupid. They'll give that reaction at that time. I actually appreciate there was some life. I got no problem with that. Why not? They've lost 3 in a row in reg. Those are expensive tickets, man. Those are 2 home games in a row where they've gotten kind of blown out, right, by the third period. Yes,
I don't know. Maybe
place.
That's what you want to do. Like, maybe that's appropriate. I don't know. I saw it, and I'm like, man, is that a little rich?
I don't think it's that harsh, though. Like a couple of boos. Was it really that bad? The Leafs can't handle that? Come on.
I think it's the timing of it, too. Didn't they have a power play near the end? Like, the power play hasn't been going. Like, I think it's situational. That's where I'll go with it, because I understand it. When you sit back from 85,000 feet and you look at the standings, you look at how the season's gone and some adversity and all that, I understand that. But in a vacuum of what they've done in the last week, they haven't played to their potential. They've lost 3 in a row. There is some concern. There are guys that look good, and then there's guys that you're going, geez, that guy hasn't played well in a couple weeks now. And, and then you look at guys like, geez, Max Domi's got 3 goals in the season.
But Noodles, if you were in the crowd and the guy beside you was going, boo, would you say, yeah, I'd boo too, pal.
Well, it's not the
Or
way.
would you say, hey, man, what are you doing?
No, I think what Brian's saying, and I was involved in a game last night. I called the Sens Islander game. They got booed off the ice in New York. They
suck. They suck. You got to answer the question for me, Noodles. If you were just there by yourself as a fan and the guy beside you was boo, would you say, yeah, I'd boo too, or would you say, hey, man, that's a little harsh?
You guys know my reaction to sitting in the stands with the fan. I like to just sit and watch games. I'm a pretty quiet fan.
But would you say to the guy, I would boo too, or would you say that's a little harsh?
On that, okay, I'm going to say on that particular night, you can boo, because you know what? They didn't play that well. I'm sorry, they didn't play that well. I did not talk to Hazy before the show. But what I'm saying is, when you voice your displeasure, it's not displeasure on the body of work over the full season. If Willie Nylander gives the puck away and they go in and score on a breakaway, you're going to be like, geez, Willie, what are you doing? But you still are very proud of him and say, geez, that's a great player, and you're happy that you're cheering for him. He's on your team. So there is context to it, I understand what you're saying. It's a bit rich. But you know what? One game can turn into 2, can turn into 3, and then all of a sudden you lose 6 of 8. And you know what? You're not first anymore. And then points percentage. Like, Florida's right there. Like, that's
Florida's a point behind them now. I mean,
right, so it's not like it's, hey, they've been in first place forever, and it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to be first in the Atlantic. Keep in mind, there's Tampa has games in hand, and this is going to be all lumped up. They have to pull their own weight. They haven't done it recently on the scoreboard, and that's where I'm going, I understand. I don't like people screaming and yelling boo and all that.
This guy sent me a message, and he's kind of all over the place. He said, maybe you should live a little and actually pay for some tickets and then see what fans have to go through with prices, etc., food, etc. Give your small head a shake. And by the way, good work with the weight loss.
Hey, that's a compliment.
Thanks,
small
Paulie.
Head.
Thanks,
like
Paulie.
Small head? I took that in a different way. I didn't like.
I think it's a compliment. I mean, a very
you think
superficial
it's a
one.
Yeah, because everyone said I got a giant head in the past.
Yeah, like if he calls you a fat head or something, then you're like, that's unnecessary. Small head, you'll take it.
It's just like booing. Do you have the right? Fat head's fine. Like whatever.
Come on, just give me what you got.
Because a small head to me is small brain, tiny, bird brain type of thing. So I understand the weight loss part. I'm on the positive side of that, not the negative side.
That's what I'm trying to allude
comment.
to here. Yes, I'm taking it as a positive. But I don't have an issue with some fans, if not all fans, trying to keep a standard here. And also, I think a jolt halfway through the season isn't a bad thing. Let's call it what it is. This season has been not necessarily like uber entertaining. It's just kind of been a formal season.
Don't even, if you're going to go down that, if you're actually going to say, I like where they're at, but it's not that entertaining, that's a clown comment.
Well, but no, I'm saying in terms of, give me memorable moments this year. Like last year, again, we've talked about it for years now. It's all about the spring. It's all about what they do in the playoffs. And as a result, you take some shine off the regular season. Last year, I would say Matthews chasing 69 changed that completely. It was an absolute blast to see him do that. This year they're playing well, like they're winning and all that, but it's not run and gun. It's not comebacks. It's not fights every night.
That's what you're going to get, man. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And there's a reason why there hasn't been outrageous point totals and Hazy B chasing his dreams in the stands every night with fantastic things happening. It's just about methodical, plodding your way along, and winning games and prepping yourselves for the playoffs.
That's right. And
how many, like in the last 2 or 3 years, here's an example. Here's a great example for you. The Florida Panthers, run and gun in first place, President's Trophy, and what did they get out of that? They got absolutely cooked in the first round sweep by the Tampa Bay Lightning. As soon as they slowed things down, the fans were like, they're winning. It's kind of They went 2 finals in a row, and they won it.
Yeah. Listen, hopefully that's what happens here. Obviously, we won't have that answer for another 35 games, right? We don't know what's going to happen in the playoffs, but we do have an idea of what their reputation is in the playoffs, a lot of these guys. And that's another thing about the underbelly of the fan base is that there's a lot of fans that still look at it like, okay, it's stale. It's still the 5 guys who have been here forever. You can sell Berube as much as you want. He doesn't play. I also think that is leading to such a visceral reaction to the power play struggling, is that it's the main guys, it's the A-list guys, and it's not about hitting and fighting and playing through toughness and playoffs. Right. It's power. It's a skills competition, and you can't do it. That's what's pissing Leaf fans off. They're like, wait a minute, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares. Right, let me get this straight. The 5 guys who have been here forever, who get paid the most, they're on the power play and they can't do it. And it's crushing this team right now. That's what's driving people crazy. But a little bit of some booze every once in a while. I mean, come on, it's the National Hockey League.
Okay,
pros. They've lost 3 in a row. A little jolt. This is a good thing, and that's what I'm saying. A little jolt, a little change of pace, snap out of it, and it's all good.
Yeah,
it's not like people are going to show up or throw waffles on the ice or something. That's not happening. It's a few scattered booze. Who cares?
Okay. You talked me into it being.
It's a positive.
Whatever.
It's a positive.
Dude, it's not a positive because they stink right now. They're not playing that way. I will tell you one thing that scared the hell out of me. Austin Matthews did some media last night, and his first comment was, we need to fix our execution. I almost shook my head. I said, no way, dude.
Tavares. It's like Teen Wolf, man.
Yeah,
like he's in
it
the
was
bathroom.
like that's their go-to crutch. It's like in broadcasting. People have crutches where they just say the same thing all the time.
Execution, man.
He goes, execution. As soon as he said that, I was like, no way, you did not just say that. That's not about execution.
Well, did they go to Tanev right after?
I didn't hear Chris say anything last night, but I did hear Willie today. Do you want to hear Willie on the reaction, the fans? And this there were some scatterboos on Saturday against Vancouver as well, and again last night against Dallas. Here's what William Nylander had to say about the fans' reaction to 3 losses in a row here.
Good teams find their way out of this, and I mean it's only been 3 games, so what's the big deal, really?
Willie, like that. I'm sorry.
He loves a no shirt too.
That's the same as Marner from a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Like it's different context, but like Mitch was like, I liked it. Willie's like, what's the big deal? Here's my take on the view, how I would react to that comment in January is that these guys are so confident in the regular season because they should be. They are a regular season dynasty. Willie knows they're going to dig out of this. I'll bet they win tomorrow night.
It's a fact.
Yeah, they know it. They are so comfortable, and they should be. They are a regular season dynasty. I guarantee you'll never hear a comment like that in the playoffs after a loss or, God forbid, 3 losses in a row if they were still somehow alive, because they would be terrified in that moment because they're not confident come playoff time. But in the regular season in January, that is the viewpoint of Nylander and Matthews and Martin. What's the big deal? It's all good. We'll figure this out.
Yeah,
and they are going to figure that out in the regular season. But I also will say quickly, and I know I'm going here because I've been watching people and listening to people and talking to people all day, trying to equate the reaction to a 3-game losing streak in January and trying to apply how they react to it to something being different in the spring, to me is a fool's game, and I don't see any correlation. Like if they come out and yell and scream and Berube benches the guys and Willie's a healthy scratch tomorrow, that doesn't mean they're going to win the Stanley Cup. I don't see the correlation between them reacting one way in January and that means it's proving they figured out accountability and how to win in the playoffs.
Oh, you're damn right about one thing. It's like you can talk about systems and approach and overall outlook and view and how the game's played and goaltending can come up, but it's going to come down to those guys being go-to guys and scoring the majority of their goals and big goals, timely goals. That is one thing that has not changed. New coach, new systems, new goalies. That is the one thing. Like Mike Johnson always says it. He's like, guys, I get what you're saying. They didn't show up. They didn't compete. Like they got bullied out of the game against the Florida Panthers. But at the end of the day, they didn't score.
And that's an issue for them right now. Like, they're not scoring goals. They had a great start last night. Austin, that was a beauty. Great pass by Marner, great shot. And then that power play actually looked pretty good. We're hitting some posts, right? Power play starting to move in the right
they
direction.
have like a notion where they're like, we got to get this thing on net.
Yes,
a lot of shots
on
net. Everything on net.
Yeah, but now they're not scoring. And, 3
they're
losses
giving
in a row
goals
in
up,
reg
too.
is pretty significant.
They're giving goals up, too. Like, that's the other thing, too. That's kind of
that first one stunk.
Stankova goal is awful. That can't go in.
Well, you're right. Like, there's, the goalie's not going to be perfect. They've had such great goaltending all season long, and, they are going to have dips, too. But, in the end, you do miss McCabe, and, you're trying to, if you're not scoring, you better keep it out of your net, and, that's what's happening. Vancouver finds, 3 last night. Dallas, I know there's empty netters and all that, so it kind of skews the numbers. But in the end, they've given up far too many goals that they should have. They weren't giving. Put it this way: they weren't giving up those goals when they were on the 5-game winning streak. Now you're on a 3-game losing streak. You're not scoring and you're giving up goals. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean it is a perfect storm of both things going wrong for them right now, and it's not going to get easier because you got Jersey here tomorrow. Then you're at the Bell Center in Montreal on Saturday night. The Habs won again last night in Utah, and then you got Tampa here on Monday. So. And as we talked about the other day, they still have to go through Western Canada. You still got to go through California. You still got to go through Vegas and Colorado. And, these trips are still waiting for them. And, it's not going to be easy. And, it seems
they always
Stolarz
seem to, go back to back.
Like
those trips seem to be like you come back for one home game, then you go right back out for the other one.
That's but other
that's
teams
what the Habs
have been
are
having
doing right
to,
now.
That's the thing. Other teams have been having to do that. It'll be their turn soon. So that's why you had to make some of the hay that you did this season, because when it does get tough and you maybe hit the ditch a little bit, that's where you've banked the points and you feel fine. I don't know, this Tavares thing, was there any...
So no update. Yeah, we got Mark Masters coming up. Mark will join us in 15. Mark will set the scene on what happened last night, the mood in the rink, but also at practice today. Naturally, they're practicing their power play, and Tavares took a spill in the corner, and it looked really awkward. His foot got caught underneath him, and he left the ice, and he was laboring a little bit. Berube didn't have an answer. Berube said, he's going to sleep on it tonight, and they're going to have an update tomorrow. But it didn't look good. I mean, it looked pretty awkward the way he went down. We don't know.
Yeah.
The Leafs, they're going to give an answer, I guess, tomorrow. We'll find out if he looks like he's skating off the ice. He's probably going to be okay.
Yeah,
he's probably going to be okay. But
I think he's fine, but he's a
that
tough
power
character,
play, man,
right?
it is a menace right now. Whether it's during the game or practice, it's taking people out. It's ripping souls away. People hate that power play. It is a mess right now.
I wouldn't have had anybody on the ice today. I think they're tired. I got to be honest with you. I think they're tired. And I know there's some people that don't believe. I know that line did not go over well at the World Juniors with the team not practicing. That was crazy stuff.
It is a Dave Cameron type of approach.
I just didn't understand it. He was like, they were like, why didn't you practice? He was like, we're exhausted. It's like the kids have been there since December 7th.
They're 17 years old.
Yeah. Right.
Those guys could run a marathon and go out and play. In junior hockey, there's guys who didn't sleep. They would eat burgers for game.
I used to go to Wendy's downtown Guelph, score 3 goals. It's like, what are you talking about?
Junior hockey it's insanity that they're tired.
Yeah.
No 17-year-old is tired unless
no way. But I would keep him off the ice. I would just be like, no way. Don't show up until the puck drops on Thursday night against your old coach.
Well, that's it, man. You got Jersey tomorrow. You got Jake Allen coming up just after 5 o'clock. We'll talk to Jake, get his take on how it's been going in Jersey, what he thinks of Sheldon Keefe, and the Devils are a good team. Devils are a good team, and
let's not forget that Dallas is a pretty darn good team too.
Yeah, they are. Dallas look really good. They're impressive. Like they're a good team, man. What have they won 8 of their last 9 noodles?
Yeah,
like they're on fire right now.
Yeah, Ottawa got them in the back-to-back, but outside of that, like they are. You know what they are? They're just tight. Like their systems are tight. They know how they want to play. Their goaltending's good. They've got skill on the back end. Their forwards, they've got a good balance of young and old. I was talking about it. That Matt Duchene comes on our show and then he starts doing stuff like that last night. Like
it was a great goal.
It was a beautiful
through the legs.
Goal.
That was
I'll
a great
be honest.
goal.
Like that was a really nice goal, but. They've got a nice mix. Like Dallas is no joke. They're a serious team, and I think they're a cup contender. I think the West has got four or five of them. The East has 4 or 5 of them too. But Dallas is no joke. They're a serious team, and I thought the Leafs were going to get them. Like early on that top line, even though Dallas turned that puck over on the Matthews goal, Matthews is. First shift, he has a big contact. He has a big contact in the corner, good hit. He seemed to be jumping, seemed to be buzzing. He scores. I'm like, okay, maybe they're just, they're going to have a night where it's a 5-2. And then Dallas just shrunk the game, and the Leafs kind of, I don't know.
That is the concern. Whether it is tired, whatever, is, again, we talk about the playoffs, and everything's about a precursor for that. That's what it felt like last night. It shrunk, and the best players couldn't break through it. Like and no one could. They're not getting any offense from anybody at this point.
No, they have nothing going on. They need to find like 2 things. They need to find like a line and a D pairing, a goalie and a power play. Like they need 2 things out of everything to show up for them to have a chance to
power
win.
Play would go a long way. Like that's long overdue for them to rip home some power play goals. And you're right. Get one line cooking where you can throw them over the boards and it's coming. And at this point, they don't have it. And according to the lines of practice, and we're going to catch up with Mark in a moment, it doesn't appear as if Berube's changing much. Like Steven Lorentz, he lasted 9 minutes last night, barely played, whatever the hell that was. And now Knies, I think, is back with them in the top line, and Nylander's going to be with Tavares, and they're just going to circle back where they've been and just kind of wait it out. So we'll come back and we'll catch up with Mark. We'll play Craig Berube's comments on the reaction from the crowd last night. Tee up the game with Jersey in town tomorrow. We'll get a couple games in the NHL tonight, including Edmonton, Minnesota, which is obviously a big game. And we got Jake Allen coming up just after 5. Jerry's percentages in just over an hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Jake Allen will join us just after 5 o'clock. Jerry's percentages at 5:30. Mark Masters coming up here in a few moments. Couple games in the NHL. The Raptors are at home. They're a 14.5-point underdog at home to the Celtics tonight.
Big number.
2 touchdowns at home.
Well, I mean, defending
wild.
Champs.
No, but Hayes,
Exactly.
don't say it, because I think opening night you were like, that spread's too big at home, and they got crushed.
They did. They did. Listen,
So don't. This
I'm
biggest
not
spread
saying
isn't-
anything, man.
No.
They played Boston 2 weeks ago. They lost by 50. I'm not. I wouldn't take the points
Did
tonight.
you just say 50?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
54, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Wasn't
it was,
the most ever, 54 points.
It was historic, man. It was historic. It was
I'm
wild.
glad I was at the World Juniors.
You were at the World
for that.
Juniors because I came on. I can't remember which day it was. I came on to gloat about Hazenbro because Al's brother was on with Feschuk, and I came on to talk to them. And the Raptors had played an afternoon game that day. I guess it was probably on New Year's Eve. I think it was, and they lost by 54, I believe, that day, which is just crazy.
I was
Like are you booing 54? Let me ask you
Yes,
that.
you're
No, I'm in
booing
my
that.
car, dude.
Okay, that's a better.
It gets to 30.
It's
I'm in my
just
car.
silence.
That's
It's silence
better.
because it's crickets, actually. Like, there's nobody there. I actually worked the next day with the Raptors stats guy, Johnny Russet, and he was like, man, it's like he's a very level-headed guy, and he just is like, it's tough. Like,
Tough
that's what I
right
can't
now,
remember he
man.
said.
But doesn't
He said,
it
"That's
get
tough."
goofy at 40? Like people start
Well, there's
cheering
not-
for the other team and stuff
No,
like
but there's-
that. Like, or
There's no
is
fights.
it just
you
like?
know? Remember in hockey, you would get the score would get lopsided. There'd be a brawl. There'd be something. That doesn't happen in basketball.
No,
like
you
it
just play it out, man.
play it
Get
out.
the bench out there. Guys try to put what is the
Hey,
best? The
just take
best
your
is
licks.
yeah, when the young guys get out there and then they stop playing the system and they just start jacking shots and then it gets worse and then everyone's embarrassed and
Yeah.
so yeah, I would say 50 plus you're in your car, but it probably is worse if there's just no reaction. Like if there's just nothing, like
Right.
you're getting embarrassed, you're awful, and everyone is just standing there and saying nothing. That's probably where you probably prefer some booze. It would fill in some of the space.
Yeah, that's
like
tough. Yeah.
just add some sort of energy into the building. But yeah, the Leafs got booed a little bit on Saturday at home against Vancouver, and they got booed last night. And here's what Craig Berube had to say about that.
It's everywhere. They do it in every rink, don't they? I mean, it's part of the game. They pay good money and they come to see hockey. They want to see us win. So that's the way it goes.
I like that answer.
He's
man.
bang on.
That's
He's
the
bang on.
answer right there. Go say that to Willie. Go tell Marner that's what it is. Like
A
it
lot of
happens
times
everywhere.
there's simple answer. It's like Todd McLellan talking about Justin Holl last night.
I was hoping we had that
was
sound
wild,
because
man.
that
Dude,
that
why
just
was
hit
it
me
wild?
honest.
It was straight up. He's like, the guy had a terrible night. What do you want me to do?
And he
Like
goes,
we have it. Do you
and he
guys
goes,
wanna hear
and I
this?
will be talking to him about it tomorrow.
He goes, go ahead, play this one. This is a simple approach to just, instead of going around and around and talking about stupid nonsense, it's just getting right to it. It hurts, but here's Todd McLellan.
I don't think we saw Justin Holl again after the 5th goal. Is that just sending a little bit of a message after the turn?
Well, sending a message, he sent himself a message. And I think that's pretty obvious. You can march him in here, and I'm not going to sit up here and BS for him. He had a terrible night. And that's just the way it is. So whether he got on in the last 5 minutes or not, it really doesn't matter. He knows he can play better. And I'm telling you before I'm going to tell him, but I am going to tell him that tomorrow, and that's up to him to fix. I know he's a better player than that.
Okay. I like that. See, this is
Straight
my
shooter,
confusion,
man.
okay? The Red Wings have won, 7 in a row? Or something
No,
like
8 of 9. or
8 of
something
9
like that.
on
Yeah.
fire, and we love that the coach is like, he's terrible, he was awful tonight. But the Leafs, they get booed by a few people, and it's like, how could you boo? What are we doing? Why aren't we like?
No,
I don't.
you're
There's a
right.
connection there. It's like, be honest.
Yeah.
Say what you
But
got to say. This is the pros, man. This is the National Hockey League. And Justin, I wasn't watching that game last night. They obviously lost, but they've been red hot recently. Todd
My
McLellan's
thing
coming
was,
out of the
I don't
mandate.
know. I'm with the fans usually. I'm part of Leafs Nation, but it was like first place. You're booing them off the ice. I don't know about that, but
I
hey,
understand the context.
Yeah,
This is not like the Sabres getting booed where it's like, what are you guys doing? You're the worst team in the league. And that's a message to management and ownership and everything. It is obviously different here with the Leafs, but I think having high expectations, it's good. Like they got to hold on to this top seed, man. Like you don't want to slip playing Tampa or something the first round. Like imagine you're going down to Tampa for
that's
game
nightmare
one.
fuel.
Well,
Exactly. So figure it out here and get going again. Like you got to hold on to the division because the other teams aren't reaching out to grab it. Florida's been inconsistent. Tampa's been inconsistent. Boston. Like if the Leafs just put the pedal to the metal, they could win this division by 10 points. They're not going to, but they could. Like look at Winnipeg. They don't slow down. Washington's got a huge advantage now in the Metro.
Yeah.
They just keep plugging along, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be – I said it all along. I'm going to be consistent with it. I think the Atlantic is going to be an absolute dogfight right to the end.
Well, yes, like I hear you, Noodles, but it does – like if the Leafs played better and more consistent, easier said than done, I get it.
Well, they're saying that in Tampa and they're saying that in Florida. They're saying that in Boston.
Obviously.
And all those teams are built exactly like the Leafs. Like
sure. One of them could step up. My point is – you don't need 120 points to win the division this year. That's what I'm trying to say. These guys,
right,
they're on pace for 105.
It's going to be. I think that's a Jerry's percentage, or that should be on your list or something. Like to me, I think what wins this division is something 105, 103, like in that range. I don't think it's going to be 110 or 112.
It may not be.
We've seen. I think it's going to be a lot more bunched up. Like I think it's going to be right down to the end. Scheduling, head-to-head, all of that type of stuff. I do believe the Leafs play Tampa late in the season.
They still play them all a few times, I believe. You got Florida more, you got Boston more. Here's Mark Masters, our Maple Leaf reporter. Mark, the booze last night. Like, how many are we talking? Like, was it that significant? If you were leaving the building, would you even have known that it was happening?
And were you booing?
I was not booing. It was. I felt it was louder on Saturday, which would make sense. A bit of a rowdier crowd. They got shut out in that game, but it was noticeable to the point where players were getting asked about it after the game, and they weren't saying like, "What are you talking about? I didn't hear it." They heard it, so it was at least noticeable to them for sure. Certainly resonated in that way.
And the reaction. I mean, that's kind of been the role that I feel like the media and the fans have been playing this week, is reacting to post-game commentary. That's what this week is defined by. Mitch Marner on Saturday and, Berube after the game last night, Willie today. What do you make of how the Leafs, as a whole are kind of approaching the way the fans are reacting to their recent play?
Yeah, I think the fan reaction is just a lot of familiar things, right? A dip in play, the power play struggling, the scoring going away in the middle of the season, kind of the dog days, not, putting together a chance to grab hold of the division, as you guys were talking about. In terms of the players, I mean, I think they're probably looking at it, and in terms of the system that Berube's got them playing, which is, obviously they want to be really tight defensively, they don't feel like they're giving up a lot. And, they've reiterated today that, bounces have not been going their way. Berube's pushing them to make their own luck here. But from the player perspective, from the team perspective, they don't think these last couple of games have been as bad as maybe it's looked at times, as maybe the score has looked, as maybe as some of the fans think. And the fans are just kind of sitting there and saying, man, it looks like a similar movie that we've seen in the past. So I think that's where you're seeing some of the frustration creep in.
Mark, what about some of the injuries? We saw John Tavares, limp off. Obviously, we're looking for an update maybe tomorrow. But even a guy like Stolarz, any type of news? Is there light at the end of the tunnel for a guy like that?
Okay, so Tavares, that was a bit of a scary moment, or Nylander called it scary. Said he was scared to see that because Tavares doesn't usually leave. Like I can't recall Tavares leaving a practice like that. And just the way his legs kind of split with that awkward collision with Chris Tanev did not look great. We'll see. If we'll get an update tomorrow. It happened right at the end of practice, so we didn't get a chance to see how they're going to adjust the lines or anything like that if Tavares misses time. So fingers crossed on that front. Jake McCabe, full participant today, skated on a regular pair with Chris Tanev. He said afterwards he's good to go, and he said it will be a coach's decision. Berube says that they'll see how he's feeling in the morning. You imagine they'll be pretty careful considering this is the second similar type injury in a row for him. As for Stolarz, I haven't seen him on the ice, but I did see him on the glass right before practice just watching. watching the practice. So nothing really big or development on the Stolarz front there.
Mark, I haven't really heard a coach or a player talk about this, but I think it's a factor. And obviously don't want to bring up excuses, but they played a ton of hockey. Do you think fatigue is kind of set in here? Even watching them play, it's like they don't really have a ton of juice. They don't have that, second chance offensive opportunities because it just seems like they have no gas.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the dog days here, and Berube was talking about that today. He said it's a second and third effort league, and we haven't had those second and third efforts, and it's tough this time of year. He talked about life and energy being missing on Saturday. I mean, if any team should have been tired on Saturday, it should have been the Canucks, who had played the night before and not been able to travel in until the day of the game, arriving, at 2 o'clock to their hotel, according to Rick Tocchet. So, and maybe that was part of the booze that we heard on Saturday is the fans knew the storyline. They knew the Canucks had lost 4 in a row, had been struggling, and they come in there and shut out the Leafs on a Saturday night. So I'm sure that maybe plays into the Saturday crowd at least. But yeah, they've looked a little fatigued at times for sure. I mean, that's just the nature of the schedule, and every team I think is grinding through their own tough hardships in the schedule just with the 4 nations this year. So I don't know if you want to make it too much of an excuse. It just might be the reality of it on some nights for the Leafs this season.
We have Mark Masters, our Maple Leaf reporter, Leafs Devils tomorrow. Are you looking forward to seeing Sheldon Keefe? I know you missed him down in Jersey because you were doing the World Juniors at that point. What's your first question for Keefe tomorrow?
Yeah, remember Sheldon was on your show, and you guys were talking about how he was going to see me, and I was yelling at my radio. But then, I'm on my way to Ottawa, and then I ended up watching his interview with Claire Hanna from Pearson while delayed trying to get to Ottawa. But what's my first question for Sheldon? I think just being back in the building, right? They played the Leafs twice, but he hasn't come back, obviously, and I think that will be an interesting dynamic. I imagine they're going to recognize him on the scoreboard. I mean, he had a good run. He's the winningest head coach in regular season history for the Leafs, and he brought an AHL title to the city with the Toronto Marlies, and he's a local product from Brampton. And, he went out on a classy note with that video. I imagine they'll recognize him and give him a warm ovation. I think he'll get a nice cheer tomorrow night if they do that. So I'm just kind of curious where his mind's at walking into that building tomorrow and seeing, what did he say last time? It was the best goaltending in the league that beat him with Stolarz. So we'll see who the Leafs start tomorrow. And I'll be curious to see how they finally, how he wants his team to play because they haven't been able to solve the Leafs in 2 games this season.
Masters, in all the interviews you did with Keefe, did he ever say to you before you started rolling, I'm in no mood for this today, don't even think about asking me certain things? Or I'm hungover and I don't want to deal with you, so just make this quick?
No, never. It was always pretty similar. There wasn't a lot of small talk. There's not a lot of small talk with Berube either. Babcock was mind games all the time, right? He'd come out and say, are you going to screw this one up today? Or what's going on? And if it wasn't the shoes, it was why I left my wife in the cattle car on a plate. It was always something with him. He'd always have something to say before the interview started. So Sheldon was straight up pretty much. And I usually take my cues from the guy you're going to interview to see what kind of the mood they're in. But it was always pretty straightforward. And I think that's what we appreciated in Toronto is he always kind of he felt like, as a local guy, he wanted to really let the fan base know what was going on. So I appreciated that. But he was never let's just get this over with or anything like that. I actually think he kind of liked to talk it out a lot of the times. That was just my sense of him here.
Yeah, he was always willing to talk for the most part, wasn't he? Sheldon, and I think he's handled his exit very, very well. The video he shot, he said it today. He's I didn't get the job done. We didn't get the job done. Changes happen. It's easier for him to say that because he got right back on the saddle, and he's got a good team in New Jersey and, a good setup there. And listen, he had a long run between the Marlies and the Maple Leafs. How many first-time coaches in the NHL get thrown into the NHL with the Maple Leafs, as their first job? That was a big opportunity for him, and he certainly seized it in terms of, I think, handling himself, in terms of the way that the team played at times, certainly through the regular season. And hey, he's on record. He's the guy who won a round. The last one before him was Pat Quinn. He was a coach of a team here that actually won a round.
Yeah, and I think fans appreciate, they could tell how badly he wanted it and how he you could when he had frustration after games, like I can only imagine. Like let's just say I think his reaction after a loss like Saturday against the Canucks, or even last night, I think would have been different than Craig Berube. Sheldon was a little hot when he got to the podium there. I don't think we've seen that really from Berube much this year. He's been pretty balanced when he's come out to the podium. Anyway, he got Keefe in trouble, a few times in Toronto, but I think the fans appreciated that. They sensed how badly he wanted, how frustrated he was at times. And I think he handled it well. You're right. Like, it's not an easy spot to get thrown into. You come in, you replace a guy who's a Stanley Cup winning coach, a couple gold medals, you come in, the expectations are high right off the bat. You're unproven at that level. You have all these big personalities and stars in the league. And I think just going around and talking to people around the league, the sentiment is he handled everything really, really well. And obviously he's off to a good start in New Jersey. So we'll see where things go. The Leafs and the Devils are pretty close kind of in the standings here. And we'll see if Keefe can find a way to get his team a victory tomorrow night.
I thought he handled things really well. And, especially down the stretch last year, I thought he was more honest. Like, he shot from the hip. He just seemed like he was kind of more comfortable in his own skin and realized it was kind of all or nothing, and I'm just going to speak my mind. Where I wanted to go, Masters, is the difference between, Mitch Marner and Chris Tanev's interviews. I don't know if you were front row to them and right in the mix there, but what do you make of, I guess even differing opinions of how the players viewed certain games, and what's your reaction when you're in the scrum to that?
Yeah, Marner was the first one to talk to us, and he just the way he said it, we talked about the booze coming, and I wondered if that kind of influenced him. And obviously he was coming off the -6 in Raleigh, and I'm sure, -6 kind of jumps off the page. I don't think he was quite as bad as -6 would suggest in that game against the Hurricanes. But, you're coming off that performance, probably took some heat, probably sensed that. And then, the team loses by shutout. You get booed off the ice in that game. And you're sitting there thinking, guys, we're in first place. It's not as bad. So that was his. And then Tanev, that's just kind of, those are just the two personalities, right? That's kind of how Marner is. And Tanev is kind of like that after a bad loss. That's what he said a couple of times. He just calls it the way he sees it, and they're coming from different backgrounds, of course. One's a hard-nosed defenseman, the other's a top-line winger, and it is jarring. I will say that when you're going through the scrums and you kind of sit down afterwards, you're like, how does this team feel about this game? And you usually don't hear that. So they talked about being disconnected on the ice, and there was a bit of a disconnect. It felt like off the ice in those scrums afterwards. So. It did pop for a lot of us in the media. We're kind of looking at each other after the media bill wrapped up and said that was interesting.
With Mark Masters. Mark, I want you to put your tennis hat on here for a moment because the Australian Open, of course, is underway, right? The first slam of the year, and a few Canadians still making their way through. Layla, big comeback victory last night. She's through, and Shapo's still kicking around. And Daniil Medvedev is one of the great, on-court quotes, and the guy, he basically just shoots from the hip. He said this, I believe it was yesterday, and I'm curious if you can attest to this is the lifestyle of, like, high-end players on that tour. Here's what Medvedev had to say about beating his opponent yesterday.
These kids coming through, they're match ready, aren't they, from the start? I mean, not every match, because I watched his matches and I didn't see this level, so I was surprised. But, he plays like this every match. His life can be good. Money, girls, casino, whatever. If he plays like this every match, if he doesn't, then he's not going to have it. Maybe not in tennis. He's going to make it otherwise. But, I wish he can play like this every match.
Money, girls, casino. Is that how you live when you're covering tennis, or what, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, not me, but it just sounds like a very interesting, fun life there. Isn't Medvedev great? He's an easy guy to cheer for.
Awesome.
Both just because of he's a great personality, on the court. So he's must watch a lot of times and must listen to when he's in the news conference room or on the court. Like, I haven't heard. That is not certainly not during Grand Slam. Maybe Nick Kyrgios. I think Nick Kyrgios once talked about winning a tournament in Acapulco and being out every night during that week. And,
did you see him the other day? He was just standing at the baseline, and he was just backhanding shots, and he was between the legs. He is outrageous, that guy.
Yeah. He's at home down there, too, right? Like, he's just very, very relaxed. But, we'll see what comes of it, Mark. All right, man. Enjoy yourself. Say hi to Sheldon for us tomorrow night as well, and we'll do it again soon.
I was wondering if you had a message for Jonas. We're sitting beside each other here at the Leafs practice facility.
Well, I save my messages. I see Jonas enough face to face. I save my messages when he's on the show. Yeah, exactly. What are you guys playing down there? Any cool games that you guys have cooking?
We're not playing Battleship. We're not playing trivia. We're sitting with looking very soft here with a big warm heater beside us.
Okay.
As we type clackety-clack away here, trying to make sense of the latest comings and goings here. But yeah, we're reminiscing about Team Corsi and the days we were together on the tribute beat. Yeah, he's saying we need a rematch. We're not even
anytime you're ready, man. Oh, and we'll bring it back. I think we still have the belts. I mean, Kara and Lindsay came in, but they cheated, so that they don't
clearly cheated. We're ready anytime, man.
Anytime
Friday. What are you doing Friday? You want to party Friday, dude? Let's go.
Trivia on Friday, Jonas?
Yeah.
Should we get back together? That would be the radio event of the year.
Really would.
Can they handle us? Is what Jonas asks. Probably not. Listen, Friday. I think they'll practice. They're flying to Montreal, so we'll be here. But I'd scoot down.
Okay, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't want to force you guys. You sound very uncomfortable.
It's only if you really want to engage.
Let's set this up. Let's set up a date that works for everybody. I don't want any excuses.
Well.
Okay. All right. Team Corsi versus Team I Test is coming back. I cannot wait for that. It's going to be outstanding. All right, Mark, say hi to Jonas, I guess. Forget Sheldon Keefe. Say hi to Jonas for us, and we'll do it again soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
There's Mark Masters, our Maple Leaf reporter. Yeah, I like that, man. Money, girls, and casinos if you play well on tour.
It's like I watched this guy. He basically said, this guy, I've watched him. He stinks. He just played really well one game. You want to play like that? Go ahead. You can make a bunch of money.
I love it.
You want to play like you have been playing? You'll do it somewhere else. Like he was just shooting from the hip.
Such a great
I like how
analysis.
he made a point of saying he might get it somewhere else, but not in tennis.
Yeah, not playing like he usually does. And the guy didn't win the match because Medvedev obviously found a way to win it.
Yeah.
But that's pretty good, man. Money, girls, and casino. I love how the casino sneaks in there. Like, where does the casino come into play when you're on the road? But I guess Medvedev's into that kind of thing. So, Jake Allen of the New Jersey Devils in 20 minutes. Jerry's percentages still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Jake Allen coming up in about 10 minutes. Some other goalie news in the league we'll get to as well down in Pittsburgh. But we've sent Al's brother out into the world with a pair of Leaf tickets, and you have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. You guys ready for the third clue of the week?
Go for it.
Hey, Overdrive fans, happy Wednesday to you. We're back with another clue to help you get one step closer to finding out where is Al's brother. We're giving away tickets to the Leafs and Lightning on January 20th, and here is your Wednesday clue. O-Dog and Duffy always recommend this particular car dealership, so I might run into them while I'm hanging out here this week. I have seen them shoot a few Instagram vids in the past here, too.
I know where he is. Of course. Tune in tomorrow for your final clue. And the first caller through on Friday with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see the Leafs take on the Lightning next Monday. Find Al's brother, sure enough, is brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora. Our family, the Ford family, and you. Full details at tsn1050.ca.
Never know. Right. You never
know.
Yeah.
Could be anything up there.
Never know.
Never know. You just never know. All right, Raptors in action, Leafs in action tomorrow with Jersey in town. Getting closer to the divisional round in the NFL as well. Mike Golick will join us later this afternoon. He's a former Notre Dame Fighting Irish, too. You got Notre Dame versus Ohio State national championship game on Monday. So a lot of good football still to come. And we'll get into this Tristan Jarry story as well, where he's been placed on waivers by the Penguins. He's got this year and 3 more at $5.3 million per on his contract, and it sounds like Dubas has had enough. Dubas signed him. One of the first things he did when he got there was sign this guy. And it hasn't gone well for him.
Hasn't worked out. I like him as a goalie. He hasn't played well. That team stinks defensively. Like they've got a lot. Like Erik Karlsson, I worry about him. Like I don't know if you've watched Pitt play at all. Like there's some times where they rely on him for some stuff, and he's just, I don't know. He's a very casual guy.
Guys, Norris has got his money. He's doing his thing, man.
The thing is when you're casual and it doesn't go well, people get pissed, right? Because they think you don't care.
And he almost takes it to the next level where it's like, yeah, watch me try that. Like it's
watch this play.
It's not the right way to go out for that guy, man. Like the Norris
great
like
talent,
just go down as one of the greatest defensemen ever and cut the crap and playing like that. He's too good a player, man.
Yes.
Well, we'll get into it in the next hour. Darren Dreger more on that as well later this afternoon. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.